it's commotion. It is the morning after the biggest party in music. The Grammys were last night. Listen, maybe you watched them, maybe you didn't. Either way, commotion's got you covered. All the winners, the snubs, the drama, but one word says it all: Beyonce.
This is CBC News. From CBC Toronto, it is 11 o'clock. Good morning, I'm Jill Dempsey. Right now, mostly cloudy skies. It is -4 with a wind chill of -10. As a devastating earthquake and the cleanup continues in southern Turkey, reports say at least 1,900 lives have been lost. But as emergency response crews continue to dig through the rubble of hundreds of collapsed buildings in both Turkey and northern Syria, the number of dead is expected to keep rising. Dorian Jones has the latest.
A live Turkish TV broadcast is interrupted by a powerful aftershock, triggering the collapse of surrounding buildings. All over southern Turkey, rescue workers are contending with the continual danger of further shocks and further collapses. Orhan Tatar, with Turkey's disaster response agency, AFAD, warned of the scale of the threat.
There have been more than 100 aftershocks. 3 of them are above 6.6. And just now, there's been another earthquake triggered by the initial quake.
Rescuers continue their dangerous work, burrowing into the piles of rubble that were once people's homes. 10 cities across southern Turkey are reporting collapsed buildings, including 2 state hospitals. Many people in the region are now on the streets in sub-zero temperatures. Dorian Jones for CBC News, Istanbul.
CBC Toronto has learned there's a major development in the investigation into Canada's self-proclaimed crypto king. We first told you about Aiden Platursky last year. He's the 24-year-old with a lavish lifestyle who allegedly promised his investors massive returns on crypto trades. Instead, those investors claim they're owed at least $35 million. And now, a lawyer chasing the missing millions has recovered a trove of information and a small fortune through an alleged associate of Platursky. Angelina King reports.
I released all that stuff to him, but apparently I'm still some multi-millionaire.
That's Colin Murphy, an alleged associate of the self-proclaimed crypto king. Murphy spoke to us outside an Oshawa courthouse where he's facing his own legal problems in relation to the missing millions. His assets have been frozen, and he's been accused of pocketing some investor money. He recently handed over $1 million in bank drafts and data he says belongs to Aiden Platursky, but Murphy wiped one of his own phones before handing it over too. Norman Groot is the lawyer working to recover money for angry investors.
Our concern is that there was cryptocurrency wallets or other assets on this phone.
Murphy told CBC he only wiped his phone to remove personally sensitive material on it. His lawyer Sukanta Saha says his client denies all allegations made against him.
What I will say on my client's behalf is that he is a victim just like everybody else.
Platursky's lawyer says his client maintains the investments were legitimate. Meanwhile, it's expected the money recovered will partially compensate investors. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
A food bank in Whitby is looking for a new space after it was forced to close this weekend. The CBC's Tyler Cheese has that story.
Marcia White is the Kendallwood Church Food Bank's coordinator. On Friday, she was told by the church that housed the food bank that she'd need to find a new space.
The bottom line is we've outgrown the church's basement and we need a space to continue what we're doing, and we would like to do more than just giving food now.
When Kendallwood first opened, it served around 20 to 30 families, but over the past few years, that's grown to around 1,000 people per week.
The clients have become like family. We know our clients, we develop a relationship with our clients. They know us.
Ben Earl of Feed the Need Durham says the local network of food banks will ensure that none of those clients go without the things they need.
We're going to be working in the next few days, especially in the next week, to make sure that anyone that we're serving in the community does get support.
But he also says food banks all across the region have been struggling to meet increased demand in recent years. As for White, she's hoping to find a new, larger space soon that will be big enough to serve all of her community's needs. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Whitby.
And that's the CBC News. Here's the weather forecast now. Mostly cloudy in Toronto. It is -4 with a wind chill of -10. Today's high -2 with a mix of sun and cloud. Partly cloudy tonight, a low of -4. Tuesday mainly cloudy with rain beginning in the morning and ending in the afternoon. Then a 60% chance of showers or drizzle late in the afternoon with a high expected of 6 degrees. You're listening to CBC Radio 1, 99.1.
If you didn't catch the Grammys last night, the story of the night in one word is Beyonce. On the one hand, she became the most awarded artist of all time. And on the other hand, she was shut out of all major categories. Today on the show, for the love of God, what does she have to do to win Album of the Year? I'm Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. This is Commotion. So the Grammys were last night, and after a couple of years of it being a smaller affair because of the pandemic, the show returned with a huge spectacle, a spectacle that we're usually familiar with. And I think befitting that spectacle, history was made last night.
Sam graciously wanted me to accept this award because I'm the first transgender woman to win this award.
That right there is Kim Petras after winning Best Pop Duo or Group Performance for her song with Sam Smith. Petras became the first trans woman to win a Grammy in a pop category. She got a lovely standing ovation after that. And you know who else got a standing ovation? A familiar face. A woman who set a new record for most Grammys won by a single artist. That is Beyonce. It is time to talk about the highlights, the surprises, and the snubs. Our panel of music experts generously stayed up way past their bedtimes. They missed this week's episode of The Last of Us, which is very kind of them, to watch a 4-hour award show. Richie Asali is a digital producer and music reporter for the Toronto Star, and Maura Johnston is a freelance music writer and journalism instructor based in Boston. Hello to you both.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm excited to talk about this. Last night, as they say, is music's biggest night, which makes today, I guess, music's biggest hangover. Let's start with the biggest prize of the night, the Album of the Year award. That is Harry Styles was As It Was from the record Harry's House. Harry's House won Album of the Year last night at the Grammys. As you may have noticed, that is not a song by Beyonce. Richie, what did you make of that choice?
I mean, I have to be honest, it was an incredibly disappointing decision, and to be frank, I think a huge mistake. You know, the Grammys have a pretty spotty history with choosing the best album, so I don't think we need to put too much stock into it typically, but I'm not sure there's ever been a more obvious choice than Beyonce's Renaissance, nor has there been a juicier opportunity to kind of make up for the multiple times she's been snubbed for this award in the past. You know, Renaissance is this big, bold, joyous, politically relevant album from someone at the complete peak of her powers. It was universally acclaimed, it was a commercial success, had this major cultural impact with songs like Cuff It and America Has a Problem. And you know, Harry Styles obviously has a lot of fans and a lot of charisma, but aside from sort of the undeniable, you know, stickiness of As It Was, you know, it's a great song. Harry's House, I think, as an album is pretty bland. It's a lot of style over substance, so it just felt kind of flabbergasting. And you know, the first 2/3, even the first 3/4 of this Grammys felt really promising. There were some really great performances, a lot of deserving wins, and it felt like they finally found their groove a little bit, but oh man, when Beyonce lost to Harry Styles, it just sucked the energy right out of the building. You could feel it, you know, there was people jeering, people were chanting Beyonce's name. And then the transition to Harry's awkward speech, you know, he said something about how this never happens to people like me. You know, he said that. People were pretty confused by what he meant by that. And then they switch over to this awkwardly executed, you know, DJ Khaled on a pulpit. It's just, the vibe changed immediately. I think it kind of reminded me of that Oscars where Chadwick Boseman, everyone's expecting him to win Best Actor, and it ended up going to Anthony Hopkins, and he wasn't even there. It's just, the vibe changed. I think it's going to be hard for the Grammys to live this one down.
Yeah, more of what Richie's getting at there is that, like, the energy of the room was sort of oriented around Beyonce, right? Like, she was late to the show, and when she showed up, the whole energy in the room changed. As Richie said, like, Renaissance was this big of the kind of day that Beyonce had?
So I'm not, I don't feel sorry for her, obviously, because she did set that record and, she looked great and everyone was talking about her. But I am really frustrated on her behalf just because I feel like she's one of the most prominent pop artists out there who takes the idea of the album as an artistic piece of work extremely seriously. The self-titled, Lemonade, and now Renaissance are all cohesive bodies of work with very distinct points of view and lots of artistic ambition, right? And Renaissance is also just a really fun listen, but in the midst of it being so much fun and joyous and dancey, it also teaches the listeners about the history of queer dance music. And I think that, that makes it so important, and I feel like it is the gold standard of an album as a piece of art over not just the last year and change, but the decade so far. So it's a question of what's holding these voters who, this is one of the big 4 categories where everyone in the Academy can vote.
Right.
What is holding these voters back from recognizing that she's really, really good and that she's putting out these really ambitious pieces of work?
Richie, I think that's a really important point to raise there, the idea that Beyonce doesn't show up with, hey, here are some songs. She sort of shows up with, hey, here's a thesis statement, and here's like how I'm going to sort of lay it out meticulously in this body of work that is an album. She still cherishes the album as a unit, which is actually relatively rare for modern artists who are, I think, a bit more interested in putting together a collection of songs that can be a bit sprawling because of streaming. Like, it's, the streaming world kind of rewards longer and longer albums. That is not what Beyonce does. She's still sort of in the business of the precise.
Absolutely, and there's so much to be said about kind of the thesis that Maura touched on, but I also think it's worth noting that, Renaissance, even though it was a dance electronic album, it also moved seamlessly between pop and hip-hop, R&B and soul, Afro beats. This is an album with huge collaborators like Nile Rodgers, Grace Jones, Big Freedia, even someone like A.G. Cook, she's belting 1 minute, she's rapping the next, there's ballroom commentating, it's a bold album that I can't really think of an album that's like this, that's come out from a major artist in a long time.
So we should move on to Record and Song of the Year. To be clear, the difference between those two, Record of the Year is awarded to the best recording of a song. Song of the Year recognizes the actual songwriting. There's often a lot of overlap between the nominees for those categories, but that doesn't mean the same will win both. For instance, last night, this song won Record of the Year.
Turn up the music, turn down the lights. I've got a feeling I'm gonna be alright, okay.
That is Lizzo with Record of the Year, About Damn Time. And then this tune won Song of the Year.
Just like that, your life can change if I hadn't looked away. My boy might still be with me now. He'd be 25 today.
Bonnie Raitt, Song of the Year, Just Like That. Richie, again, the one thing that these two songs have in common is if you had to do a Grammy pool, you wouldn't have won if you just wouldn't have won because you would not have picked these particular songs. What do you make of these victories?
Yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I kind of like the direction these two went. For Song of the Year, I think Bonnie Raitt was, that was unexpected, but it's hard to be upset about this. She looked absolutely, genuinely surprised to beat out the likes of Beyonce and Taylor Swift, but she's a legend, and, she's 73 years old, and to get an award like this at a late stage of her career, I think that's really lovely to give someone their flowers like that. And I wasn't really familiar with the song, to be honest, and I went and listened this morning, and it's this really lovely song inspired by the late John Prine. It's about a woman who lost her son, and she's grieving, and her son was an organ donor, and she ends up connecting with a man whose life was saved by her son's organs. And it's this really kind of old school folk ballad that really kind of hits you in the feels. So for an award that was about songwriting, I think it kind of makes sense. And